This video is going to be a review of trading plan number 3. Starting off from the 6 hours chart. Initially, I have anticipated that I want to see price to trade lower to take out this lows down here. But eventually we get the opposite. So during the Asia session, I mentioned that I was looking for SMT above Asia's high. At around 2 to 3 o'clock in the London session, we did in fact get that SMT. But there is an underlying issue with that particular setup. Right, so I'm going to highlight the Asia highs. Let me see. Maybe I'll do that replay here to make things clearer. This is, yep. Where is it? Right here. Okay. So during London, we have this candle here, this down close candle. This is Asia session. Okay, and let's go down into the 90 minutes. On the 90 minutes, there wasn't really any SMT on the highs. Okay, between the two sessions. This is the quarter 1, this is Q2, Q3, and Q4. So if you take a look over here, we don't really have SMT on the quarter's highs. They are all pretty in sync with one another. So that is something that prevented me from going shorts, even though one has taken out Asia's high and the other one has failed to do so. If you look closely at this particular candle here at 3 AM New York, I mean not New York, London, 3 AM London, on the 15 minutes, the model did print out. Okay, this is this is my model right here. At 3 o'clock, we have these two up close candles and we have price closing below this up close candle here. Similar to NQ, we have the confirmation down here at 4:15. So by right, if I am just following my model, I would have taken a short at this up close candle. I'll treat it as order block in a way whereby NQ has taken out Asia's high, whereas ES has failed to do so. Okay, but what is the underlying narrative and why did this model not work? Because when you look at the 90 minutes session here, we have closed above this bearish fair value gap. This was supposed to be the fair value gap that sends the price lower. Even if it is to take out Asia's high, you don't really want to see the body closing above this order block right here. By anticipating by anticipating that Asia high is going to be taken out, as what I have anticipated during that trading plan video itself, I was anticipating a high resistance liquidity run. But even in high resistance liquidity runs, you would want to see the body respect the PD arrays, which is not what we have right here. So at the candles closing for this particular candle here, we have closed above this bearish fair value gap, and on NQ it has closed higher. So this is by no way indication or indicating that we are going to reverse and then go lower. This is a very hard bias, or very hard, how I say, forcing my will in the markets if I want to do it that way. Okay, so I have to see how price reacts and how price paints, and not just following my model blindly. So if I have taken a short there during the London session, I would have taken a loss. Okay, so the context and narrative on the higher time frames is very, very important for me. So that's why that particular model didn't work in that particular setup during the London session. Okay, so moving forward, we have the New York session. Oops. Let's move on to the New York session. Okay, I'm gonna remove this. And also at the same time, Asia has traded back into this weekly fair value gap, right? This is a weekly fair value gaps high. Okay, so let's move on to the next candle. Okay, let's move the bars. Right, so right now we have the candle for New York session. Right, so in New York, obviously I was anticipating it to run higher, but I wasn't sitting in front of the desk. I knew that there was a news event at 8:30 and there was a news event at 10 o'clock. So the earliest I'm going to sit in the desk would be 9:45 to watch what 10 o'clock presents. So I'm just going to move on to the 90 minutes candle after 10:30, right? Because that is when all the news event has passed and we are allowed to take a trade. So 10:30 candle is this particular candle right here. Okay, so we don't have SMT on the highs except for the higher time frame. Right, so if you take a look at the higher time frames, NQ has taken out Monday's high yet again, including Friday's high. So this is Friday's candle here, from this high to the Sunday's opening. So we have taken out Friday's high for NQ. However, ES is still unable to take out the Monday's high. It basically traded back into that rejection block on the 6 hours time frame. So at that point I was considering shorts. But with the higher time frame context in mind, and we have this consecutive up close candles right here, it's very hard for me to short. At the same time, I don't have SMT above the previous candle's high, which is the previous quarter's high. That wasn't present. All right, so we have two conflicting factors here. Even though we have taken out external liquidity, okay, we have two conflicting factors. One of them is higher time frame is bullish. Second thing is that we don't have SMT on the highs, clear SMT on the highs with regards to the what do you call it, the quarters, correct? So because of this, even though I was watching price and I was taking trades in my mind, I didn't really press the button, because the real setup that I was looking for is SMT on the lows in order to go higher. I wanted to see if there is any SMT on the lows for me to engage the price to go higher, right? So at this point in time, I knew that I wasn't going to get any SMT on the lows, and it's just going to do a retracement, and this is most probably going to be a retracement trade, but I am uncomfortable to take that trade because I'm playing against the underlying higher time frame narrative. So what was the trade that was present at in this particular 90 minutes candle? If you go down to the 2 minutes, you would be able to see SMT between the quarters, but it's candle's body SMT. Right, so I'm just going to mark out the 1030 right here. 1030. And I believe right now you can see it. The highest body for ES in the previous quarter is this high, this swing high right here. The highest body for NQ was this high right here. After 1030 for ES, it came back up into this old rejection block. However, at this point in time, NQ was unable to do so. And then we traded lower, closing below this consecutive up close candles. So this is where the model comes in play again. This is the order block. And right over here for NQ, this right here is the order block. So over here you can see, if I was targeting this, like let's just say if there's a fair value gap below, that would make it easier for me to target, right, on the 90 minutes. But there wasn't any fair value gaps. Let me check on the hourly. I believe there is no fair value gap. Yeah, there's no fair value gaps as well, except for NQ. We have one right here, this small little one. But other than that, let's take a look at the 30 minutes. No fair value gaps. 50 minutes. No fair value gaps as well. So it's very hard for me to want to take this trade setup because I don't have a clear defined target, like a PD array for my targets. All I have is 830 slow and 930 slow. Where's 930? 930 is right here. This is for ES, and 930 is right here for NQ. Okay, so other than these lows, I don't have any other PD arrays to line up with, which is why I didn't take this trade. And honestly speaking, I didn't see this trade coming as well because it was on the 2 minutes. My chart is on the 3 minutes, and I wasn't toggling because that wasn't trading lower wasn't my interest, because on the high time frames we are bullish as two factors that I've stated just now, right? So it wasn't in my interest to trade lower, which is why I wasn't really that keen on looking for setups for shorts. But this is what I saw after this candle right here at around 1050, right? Because 1050 is when the macro will start to spool, and basically 1050 to 1110 is when the action would most probably play out. So at that point of time, I started to toggle on the chart, different time frames and stuff like that. Then I noticed this SMT right here. Okay, so at the point of time, it was already too late, right? Because the move has already ran, and I don't like to take continuation trades on the lower time frames because it can respectfully stop me out and then go lower. So that is not what I want to do. I want to catch the highs and the lows in terms of the trade setup, right? So this is a valid trade right here, right? Even on the 3 minutes, right? There's no SMT, I understand, but if you take a look at the 2 minutes, there is SMT. Okay, so on the 3 minutes, I was looking at this fair value gap here, and this fair value gap for NQ. Okay, but yeah, so For ES, this could have been a trade from here to this low right here. This is the 950 low and eventually into the 830s low. For NQ, this was sort of like a breakaway gap because we have closed below this swing low. This was the low that made this high here. So this consecutive down close candles is the breaker. So if I was to line up the fibs with the breaker, it traded back up all the way into the 25% right here, and then it dropped. This is the breaker, and if you want to use the breaker as a wick, because it has a very large wick from the wick to the lowest close, this is where we are with the breaker, right? So price wasn't able to close above the breaker's closing price. Okay, so over here, this was the only trade idea that I can see, and it wasn't my setup, which is why yesterday there was no trade for me as well, because I was looking for longs, right? So let's move on to the PM session. Let's take a look at the PM session. PM session is basically the next candle. Alright, so for the PM session, it's much more cleaner, I would say. Right, so because I was looking for longs, right here we have SMT with the previous session, right here, okay? And this SMT is also between Q3 and Q4 because the PM session is Q4 of the entire daily candle. Alright, taking out Q3's low for ES but fails to do so on NQ. Heading lower into the 90 minutes at 1:30. Right. Usually in PM session you can start off at 1:30, or if you want a safer route you can go for the 2 o'clock candle. I mean the 2 o'clock opening, I mean not opening, but ICT's 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock silver bullet. Okay, but for me this would be enough. So after price has taken out this low here for ES at 1:30, take a look at 1:30 for NQ. It is very unlikely that it wants to trade lower. Okay, so over here we have a valid SMT. Let's see if we have a valid setup. Let's go down into the 5 minutes and take a look. Right, so the 5 minutes wasn't that clear. 15 minutes, not clear as well. 4, not really. 3, nope. 2, usually I don't really like to go to 1, so let's see if there's any on a 10 minute. Unfortunately there was no setup here. I mean no setup in terms of my model. Okay, yeah, I can't see any. How about 6? Unfortunately I can't see any setups here. Yeah, there's no setup for me right here. Alright, then that's just too bad, right? So no setups present in the PM session, even though we have SMT on the lows. Even the 30 minutes, Well, it dragged all the way into the Asia session. Yeah, so the only setup was in today's Asia session, continuation from the PM session. So if you take a look at this down close candle here, during the Asia session we came back over here as well. This is the candle that formed the SMT. Right here there's this small little fair value gap. Let me just highlight it. Yep, right at Asia's open. Yeah, so this was the only valid setup. Okay, then in that case it wouldn't be valid for me either. So yeah, in all, no setups for me yesterday, right? Wow, this review is pretty long because I went through all the sessions here. Maybe I'll try to not do that in the next one. Yep, and that's basically it for the review. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you find some value. Right, I think the most important thing is identifying when your model doesn't work. I think that's the most challenging part. And yeah, that's it for me today for this video, and I'll talk to you again